The farm owner laughed when the modest boy approached the wild stallion, thinking he would run away just like everyone else before him. But the moment the animal looked at that thin, weary boy, something in the air changed, as if it recognized someone who had also been abandoned once. The ranch hands, who had been ready to mock him, froze when they saw the horse lower its head before him. And the silence that followed made the owner himself pale, unable to understand what was about to happen. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment from which part of the world you're watching, because now I'm going to tell you everything. Mister, please, I need a job. The words were dry and cracked, like the ground under his worn-out boots. They hung in the hot, still air of the Montana afternoon. The man on the other side of the rusty gate looked down from his tall horse. His eyes were the color of old ice. "Everyone needs a job, boy," Old Man Higgins said. He did not smile. "What I need is a reason to give you one." Wyatt Miller swallowed. The dust from the long walk stuck in his throat. He was 17 years old, but he felt 100. He looked past the old man at the world behind the gate. It was a sea of brown grass and faded fences under a sky so huge it made him feel small. This was the Rocky Creek Ranch. It was his last stop. "I will work harder than anyone," Wyatt said. He kept his voice even. "I can do anything. Fix fences, feed animals, clean barns. I don't sleep much." The old man's gaze moved over him. It took in the patched jeans, the thin shirt, the way Wyatt stood with the weight of something invisible on his shoulders. "Where you from?" "Billings." "Why'd you leave?" Wyatt's hand moved to his pocket. He felt the corner of the photograph there. "Needed work." "Got family looking for you?" Higgins asked. His tone was not kind. It was the tone of a man checking for loose wire on a fence. "No, sir." A lie. It tasted bitter. But the truth was a locked box inside him. It held the image of a small, pale face on a thin pillow. It held the sound of a raspy cough in a dark apartment. It held a number, the amount of money needed for the little blue inhaler on the kitchen counter. His sister Beth, 12 years old, getting sicker. And him, the only one left to fix it. Old Man Higgins shifted in his saddle. The leather creaked. Rocky Creek isn't a charity. It's a hard place. The ground's hard. The work's hard. I'm hard. Lazy boys don't last a week. I'm not lazy. There was a spark in Wyatt's green eyes then, a flash of the steel that kept him walking when his feet wanted to stop. For a few seconds, there was only the sound of the hot wind. Then Higgins nodded, not to Wyatt, but to the empty space beyond him. "See that bunkhouse over yonder? You walk over there. You tell the man named Cal I said to give you a meal. One meal. Then you get off my land." The spark flickered and died. It was over. He had used his last dollars for the bus ride here. There was nothing left. A single meal would not help Beth. "Please," Wyatt said again, the words scraping out. "My sister." He stopped. He had said too much. Old Man Higgins's eyes narrowed. "Your sister what? She need you to send home a paycheck?" Wyatt said nothing. He just looked at the ground. A slow, cold smile touched the old man's lips. It was not a nice smile. "Sentiment," he said, like it was a dirty word. "Sentiment makes for weak backs and sorry workers. I don't need it on my ranch." He turned his horse, ready to ride away and leave Wyatt in the dust. Wyatt felt a panic, sharp and cold, rise in his chest. This was the end of the road. He looked around, desperate, his eyes sweeping over the dry pastures, the distant cattle, the big weathered barns. And then he saw the horse. It was in a separate paddock, away from the others. A massive black stallion standing alone. Its coat shone like a dark star against the dull land. Even from this distance, Wyatt could see the power in its neck, the defiant toss of its head. It was the most beautiful and the most alone thing he had ever seen. Old Man Higgins followed his gaze. The cold smile returned, wider now. He saw a chance for a lesson. "You like horses, boy?" "I don't know much about them," Wyatt admitted quietly. "See that one? That's Midnight." Higgins gave a short, rough laugh. "They say he's a devil, broke the arm of one man, kicked the sense out of another. He belongs to no one. He'll die before he lets a man own him." Wyatt watched the black horse pace. Its movements were all restless energy, a storm trapped in a circle of fence posts. Old Man Higgins leaned forward in his saddle. His voice became a loud, mocking challenge that carried across the yard. "You want a job so bad? You want to prove you're not weak? You go on in there. You tame that horse. You make him yours." He waved a bony hand at the whole vast spread of land. "You do that one thing, and all of this whole ranch will be yours. I promise you." From over by the corral, a few ranch hands had stopped to watch. They heard the old man's words. They grinned, shaking their heads. They had seen strong men try and fail with Midnight. This dusty boy would run crying before he even reached the gate. Wyatt heard the laughter. He felt the heat on his neck. He looked at the old man's mocking face. He looked at the wild, beautiful horse. And then, in his mind, he saw Beth's face, her small smile, her trusting eyes. This was not a real chance. It was a cruel joke. He knew that, but it was the only chance he had. He did not say a word. He turned away from old man Higgins. He walked toward the paddock where the black horse watched him come, its ears pinned back, its eyes wide and warning. The paddock gate clicked shut behind him. The sound was very loud in the quiet yard. Now, there was only dirt between Wyatt and the black horse. Midnight stopped his pacing. He turned his whole body to face the boy. His head was high, his nostrils wide. He let out a sudden sharp snort that kicked up dust. Wyatt stood still. His heart was beating very fast. He could feel the eyes of the men on the other side of the fence. He could hear their low voices. He did not look at them. He took one slow step forward, then another. The horse stamped his front foot. The sound was like a hammer hitting the ground. He shook his mane, his dark eyes fixed on Wyatt. "It's okay," Wyatt said. His voice was a soft thing, lost in the big open air. "I'm not going to hurt you." He took 5 more steps. He was close enough now to see the shine of sweat on the horse's shoulder, the white sock on his back leg, the way his muscles trembled with ready energy. Midnight was not just a horse, he was a force. Old man Higgins' voice carried from the fence. "He's sizing you up, boy, deciding which bone to break first." The men laughed again. Wyatt blocked the sound out. He only saw the horse. He thought of Beth. He thought of the medicine. He thought of the old man's promise, even if it was a lie. It was a direction to move in. So he moved. He took another step. Midnight did not back up. He lowered his head a little, a warning. "You're alone here too, aren't you?" Wyatt whispered. He did not know why he said it. It just felt true. He was now 10 feet away. He could see the old scars on the horse's flank. He could see the intelligence and the anger in his eyes. It was not a mean anger. It was the anger of something that had been pushed and hurt and never shown a different way. Wyatt stopped moving his feet. He slowly held out one hand, palm up and empty. He did not reach for the horse. He just let his hand sit in the air between them. His arm began to ache. "My name is Wyatt." Midnight blew out a hot breath. He took one step closer, then another. His nose stretched forward, twitching. He was so big. His shadow fell over Wyatt, blocking the sun. The laughing from the fence had stopped. No one spoke. The horse's nose touched the air just above Wyatt's fingers. He sniffed, loud and wet. Wyatt did not pull his hand back. He did not blink. He held his breath. Midnight's head tilted. His dark eye looked directly into Wyatt's green one. It was a long look. Wyatt felt the horse was seeing past his skin, past his old clothes, right into the worry he carried every day. The worry for his sister, the tiredness, the loneliness. The horse made a sound. It was a low, soft rumble deep in his chest. It was not a mean sound. Slowly, very slowly, Wyatt moved his hand. He did not touch the horse's face. He moved it to the side, toward the powerful, sweaty curve of the horse's neck. He waited. Midnight watched him. Then, Wyatt let his fingertips touch the dark coat. The horse flinched. His skin shivered under Wyatt's touch like water, but he did not rear up. He did not bite. Wyatt moved his hand, a gentle stroke on the hot, firm neck. "See," he breathed, "it's just me." Midnight stood there. He let the boy touch him. He lowered his head again, this time not in warning, but in something that looked like thought. He took one more step, closing the last space between them, and pressed his broad forehead lightly against Wyatt's chest. The whole world went silent. Wyatt rested his hand on the horse's neck, feeling the life thrumming beneath. He looked over at the fence. Old man Higgins was not smiling. He was not laughing. His face had lost its color. He looked pale under the brim of his hat. His mouth was a thin, hard line. The ranch hands just stared, their eyes wide. No one had ever touched Midnight like that. No one had ever stood so close and lived without a fight. Higgins climbed down from his horse. His movements were stiff. He walked to the paddock gate and opened it. The creak of the hinge made Midnight's ear twitch, but the horse did not move from Wyatt's side. The old man walked into the paddock. He stopped a few yards away. He looked from the wild black stallion to the dusty, quiet boy. "How did you do that?" Higgins asked. His voice was flat. "I just talked to him," Wyatt said. "No one just talks to that devil." Higgins's pale eyes were sharp, searching Wyatt's face for a trick. "He's not a devil," Wyatt said, his hand still on Midnight's neck. "He was just scared." A strange look passed over the old man's face. It was confusion mixed with a deep, unsettled anger. The joke had turned inside out. The boy had done the impossible. Everyone had heard his promise. Higgins cleared his throat. He looked at the watching men. He looked back at Wyatt. "Fine," he said, the word clipped and hard. "You touched him. You stood there for a minute. That's a good trick." He crossed his arms. "But the ranch is not yours. A man's word is his bond, but a joke is a joke, you understand? This was a joke." The hope that had begun to warm Wyatt's chest turned cold and heavy. He understood. The promise had been nothing but dust. Midnight, sensing the change, lifted his head from Wyatt's chest and pinned his ears at the old man. A low warning snort came from his nose. Higgins took a step back, his eyes wary of the horse. He pointed a bony finger at Wyatt. "You're good with animals, and I'll give you that. You want a job? A real one? You can have it. You can sleep in the barn and clean the stalls. You can take care of this beast you seem to love so much. That's the offer. Take it or walk back to the road." It was not the ranch. It was not even good pay, but it was a job. It was a roof. It was a way to start saving money for Beth. Wyatt looked at the horse beside him. He looked into the dark, knowing eye. He gave a small nod. "I'll take it," he said. The small room in the back of the barn smelled like old wood and clean hay. It had one cot, one blanket, and a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Wyatt put his small bag on the floor. He could hear the sounds of the other horses shifting in their stalls. Then he heard a different sound, a restless stamping, followed by a low nicker. He walked out into the main part of the barn. The stall at the very end was bigger than the others. Midnight stood inside, watching the hallway. "Hey," Wyatt said softly. The black horse snorted, but his ears were forward. A door at the other end of the barn opened, letting in a slice of evening sun. A man walked in. He was older, with a kind face under his cowboy hat. He moved with an easy, tired grace. He saw Wyatt and nodded. "You must be the new hand," the man said. "I'm Cal. I run the barn and the stable crew." "I'm Wyatt." "I heard." Cal walked closer, his eyes going to Midnight's stall. He looked at the horse, then at Wyatt. "I saw what happened out there. Never seen anything like it." Wyatt didn't know what to say. "Don't let the old man get to you," Cal said, leaning against a post. "His bark is bad, but his bite, well, it's pretty bad too. But you're here now. That's something." He said I should take care of Midnight. Cal raised an eyebrow. "That so? Well, that's a full-time job all by itself. No one gets close to that stallion. The boys just slide his food and water in and run." He studied Wyatt. "You're not scared?" "I am," Wyatt admitted. "But he's more scared." Cal was quiet for a moment. "You might be right about that." He pushed off the post. "Come on, I'll show you where the feed is. You can start your new job right now." Cal showed him the grain bins, the hayloft, the tools. Wyatt listened carefully. He needed to do this right. "What about the other horses?" Wyatt asked. "You'll help with them in the mornings," Cal said, "but your main focus is that one." He nodded toward Midnight's stall. "If you can get him to eat from a bucket you're holding, that'll be a miracle." Later, with the barn quiet, Wyatt mixed the grain. He carried the bucket down to Midnight's stall. The horse watched him come, his body tense. Wyatt stopped outside the stall door. He did not open it and slide the bucket in. He just stood there. "I brought your dinner," he said. Midnight took a step closer. His nose twitched. Slowly, Wyatt unlatched the door. He did not swing it wide open. He just opened it enough to slip inside, then closed it behind him. He stood with his back against the wood, the bucket at his feet. The stall was large, but with the huge horse in it, the space felt very small. Midnight could crush him against the wall in a second. The horse took another step, then another. He lowered his head to the bucket, his eyes still on Wyatt. He began to eat, the sound loud in the quiet. Wyatt did not move. He just breathed. He watched the powerful muscles in the horse's neck work. When Midnight was almost done, Wyatt slowly bent his knees. He sank down until he was sitting on the stall floor, his back still against the door. Midnight lifted his head, chewing. He looked at the boy on the ground. "It's okay," Wyatt whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." The horse finished the last of the grain. He sniffed the empty bucket. Then he took one more step. He lowered his head again, not to the bucket, but toward Wyatt. His warm breath ruffled Wyatt's hair. Wyatt held very still. Midnight's nose touched the top of his head, a gentle, searching press. Then the horse sighed, a deep, tired sound that seemed to come from his very bones. He took a half step back and settled, standing relaxed in the middle of his stall, as if Wyatt was just another part of the barn now. From outside, Cal's voice came softly. "Wyatt, you alive in there?" "Yes, sir," Wyatt called back, not moving. The barn door slid open a little. Cal peered in. He saw Wyatt sitting on the floor of the stall. He saw Midnight standing peacefully. His eyes widened. "Well, I'll be," Cal breathed. He shook his head. "All right then, I'll leave you to it. Breakfast is at 5 in the morning, don't be late. Higgins hates late." "I won't be," Wyatt said. Cal left. The barn was dark now, lit only by one pale light over the main door. Wyatt listened to the sounds of the ranch at night, the crickets, the distant lowing of a cow, the soft chewing of the horse beside him. He thought of Beth, alone in the apartment in Billings. He had called her from a payphone before he got on the bus. He had told her he found a job on a ranch. He did not tell her about the wild horse or the old man's joke. He just told her he would send money soon. He pulled the photograph from his pocket. In the dim light, he could just see her smiling face. "I'm here, Beth," he whispered to the picture. "I'm working on it." Midnight made a soft sound, a gentle nicker, as if he understood. The sky was still dark when the alarm on Wyatt's old phone buzzed. 4:30 in the morning. He dressed quickly in the cold barn room and stepped out into the quiet hallway. A soft nicker greeted him from the end stall. Wyatt walked over and leaned on the door. Midnight stood waiting, his head already over the gate. "Morning," Wyatt whispered. He reached out and scratched the base of the horse's ear. Midnight leaned into the touch, his eyes half closed. The barn door slid open. Cal stepped in, switching on the lights. "You're up. Good. Come help me feed the others before Higgins starts making his rounds." For the next hour, Wyatt worked beside Cal. They hauled hay, filled water troughs, and poured grain for the other horses and the few mules. Cal showed him how to do everything. He was a patient teacher. "You ever worked with cattle?" Cal asked as they scooped grain. "No, sir." "You'll learn. We're moving a herd to the north pasture today. What you did yesterday with that black devil, it impressed some of the boys. They might give you a chance now." Wyatt nodded. He hoped so. He needed this job to last. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky pink and orange, Old Man Higgins walked into the barn. He stopped and looked at Wyatt, who was mucking out a stall. Higgins's expression was unreadable. "Cal," Higgins said, not taking his eyes off Wyatt. "Boss, this one does his work?" "He does. No complaints." Higgins gave a single short nod. "Fine. Put him on fence duty with the others after morning chores. I want the line along Carter's property checked, every post." He turned and walked out without another word. When he was gone, Cal let out a low breath. "Fence duty. That's a good sign. Means he expects you to stay more than a day." "Who is Carter?" Wyatt asked. Cal's face grew serious. He leaned on his pitchfork. "Jed Carter owns the ranch next to us, the Diamond Sea. It's bigger. He's got more money. And he wants this land." "Why?" "Water, or the lack of it." Cal pointed out the open barn door at the dry brown fields. "See that? No rain for months. The grass is dying. Our wells are getting low. Carter's land is just as dry, but he doesn't want to raise cattle. He wants what's under the ground. Coal, maybe. Gas. He's tried to buy Rocky Creek from Higgins for 2 years, but Mr. Higgins won't sell." Cal shook his head. "No, he'll never sell. This land is his life. His wife is buried here. He'd rather go broke on it than give it to a man like Carter. He looked at Wyatt. It's a bad situation. The ranch is in trouble, son. Real trouble. We're all just hoping for rain that won't come. Wyatt thought about this. He looked at the dusty ground. He thought of Beth's medical bills. He knew what it was like to be trapped by something you couldn't fix. Later, after the morning feed was done, Wyatt went to Midnight's stall with a brush. He opened the door and stepped inside. The horse came to him. "We're going to check fences today," Wyatt said, starting to brush the dirt from the horse's coat. Midnight stood still, enjoying the attention. "Cal says the ranch is in trouble. No water." He worked in silence for a few minutes. Then he spoke again, his voice very quiet. "My sister is sick. She needs medicine. I have to make enough money. I can't lose this job." Midnight turned his head and nudged Wyatt's shoulder as if he understood. "You're a good listener," Wyatt said, a small smile touching his lips for the first time that day. From the doorway, Cal watched them. He had come to get Wyatt for fence duty. He saw the easy way the boy moved around the dangerous stallion. He saw the trust between them. "Wyatt," Cal called softly. Wyatt looked up. "Leave him for now. Time to go to work. The truck's outside." Wyatt gave Midnight a final pat and latched the stall door. As he walked away, the black horse let out a loud whinny. "He'll be here when you get back," Cal said, putting a hand on Wyatt's shoulder. "Don't worry, he's not going anywhere." As they drove out in an old ranch truck with two other hands, Wyatt looked back at the barn. He thought of the horse standing alone in the stall. He thought of the dry land. He thought of his sister. It felt like everything was hanging by a thread. The days fell into a hard rhythm. Wyatt woke up in the dark every morning. He did his chores. He mended fences under the hot sun. He sent almost every dollar he earned to Billings for Beth. At night, he would sit in Midnight's stall and talk to the horse about his day. It was the only time he felt he could breathe. One morning, he woke up even earlier. It was not yet 4 in the morning. The ranch was asleep. A thought had been growing in his mind since his talk with Cal about the water. He pulled on his boots and walked to Midnight's stall. The horse was awake, as if he had been waiting. "Want to go for a ride?" Wyatt whispered. He did not use a saddle. He did not have one. He opened the stall door and led Midnight out of the quiet barn. Outside, he used a fence post to climb onto the horse's bare back. He held onto the thick mane. Midnight needed no direction. He seemed to understand. He walked softly out of the yard, and then, as the first light of day touched the hills, he began to run. It was not like anything Wyatt had ever felt. The power of the horse beneath him, the wind tearing at his clothes, the world rushing by in a blur of gray and gold. They were not a boy and a horse. They were one thing, fast and free. They rode for a long time, going further west than Wyatt had ever been on the ranch. The land here was rougher, full of rocks and steep draws. The grass was just as brown. As the sun rose higher, Wyatt guided Midnight toward a rocky outcrop to rest. He slid off the horse's back, his legs shaky. Midnight's sides were heaving, but his eyes were bright. "You're amazing," Wyatt said, patting the sweaty neck. "Just amazing." He sat on a rock to catch his breath. That's when he heard it, a different sound. Not the wind, not the horse breathing. It was water, a soft, gurgling sound. He stood up and walked toward the noise, pushing through a thicket of dry brush. Behind the rocks, in a deep, shadowy cut in the earth, was a small stream. It bubbled up clear and clean from between two large stones, formed a tiny pool, and then trickled away underground. Wyatt knelt down. He put his hands in the water. It was cold. He brought some to his mouth. It was the sweetest, cleanest water he had ever tasted. His heart leaped. He ran back to where Midnight stood. "Water," he said, his voice full of excitement. "Midnight, it's water, a spring." The horse dipped his head and drank deeply from the little pool. Wyatt looked around. This part of the ranch was forgotten. No fences, no tracks. The spring was hidden, but it was here, and it was on Rocky Creek land. This could change everything. Water for the cattle, water for the grass, hope. He stayed there for a while, letting Midnight drink and rest. He made a plan in his head. He would tell Cal. Cal would know what to do. They could bring the cattle here. They could save them. When the sun was fully up, he climbed back onto Midnight. They rode back toward the ranch at a slower pace. Wyatt was so full of his discovery he did not see the black truck parked on a ridge far to the south. He did not see the two men inside, watching him and the black horse through binoculars. He rode straight into the main yard as the ranch was coming to life for the day. Cal was by the corral. Wyatt slid off Midnight and led the horse over, his eyes shining. "Cal, I need to show you something." "What is it, son? You look like you found a gold coin." "Better," Wyatt said. "I found water, a spring, a real one, way out west in the rocks." Cal's easy expression vanished. He became very still. "You're sure?" "I drank from it. So did he." Wyatt patted Midnight's neck. Cal looked toward the ranch house. He looked back at Wyatt. "Does anyone else know?" "Just you, and me, and Midnight." Cal let out a long breath. He put a hand on Wyatt's shoulder. His grip was tight. "Listen to me. You don't tell another soul, not yet. You understand? Not a single soul." "Why? This is good news." "It's the best news," Cal said, his voice low and serious. "And that's why it's dangerous. Water is hope, and hope can make greedy men do terrible things. You keep this quiet until I figure out how to tell Higgins. Promise me." Wyatt saw the real worry in Cal's eyes. He nodded. "I promise." "Good boy," Cal said. He looked at the magnificent, tired horse. "And you too? You didn't see anyone else out there? No one saw you?" "No," Wyatt said, thinking of the empty land. "No one." The shiny black truck pulled into the yard 2 days later. It looked out of place among the dusty ranch vehicles. A man stepped out. He wore a crisp shirt and clean jeans. He smiled, but his eyes were like two gray stones. Old Man Higgins came out of the house and stood on the porch. He did not smile. "Carter." "Walter," Jed Carter said, his voice smooth. "Just thought I'd come by. Check on my neighbor." "I'm still breathing," Higgins said. "My land is still mine." Carter's smile stayed fixed. He walked closer, his boots making no sound on the dirt. "I hear your wells are getting low. That's a shame, a terrible shame. All this good land going to waste for lack of a little water." Higgins's jaw tightened. "My land is my business." Of course, of course." Carter looked around the yard. His eyes passed over the barn and stopped. Wyatt was coming out, carrying a bale of hay. Carter's gaze followed him. "I see you hired some new help, the boy who tamed the monster." "He works," Higgins said shortly. "I'll bet he does." Carter turned his cold smile back to Higgins. "Let's talk straight, Walter. My offer still stands, more than stands. I'll increase it. You sell me the western quarter of your land, the rocky part, the part you don't even use. That money would dig you a dozen new wells, save your herd." Higgins crossed his arms. "That land has been in my family for 60 years. It's not for sale, not to you, not to anyone. You want to dig holes and poison the earth, you do it somewhere else." The smooth smile finally faded from Carter's face. "Sentiment is a luxury you can't afford, old man. You're drowning in dust. I'm throwing you a rope." "It's a rope to hang myself," Higgins said. "The answer is no. Now get off my property." Jed Carter stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded once, turned, and walked back to his truck. But he did not drive away. Instead, he drove the truck slowly across the yard toward the barn where Wyatt was now brushing down an old mare. Wyatt saw him coming. He felt a chill. The truck window slid down. "You're Wyatt, right?" Carter asked. "Yes, sir. I'm Jed Carter. I own the spread next door." He leaned his elbow on the window frame. "I heard about you and that black horse. That's quite a story." Wyatt said nothing. He kept brushing the mare. "A boy with your talent shouldn't be mucking out stalls," Carter said, his voice friendly. "I could use a hand with my horses. I'd pay double what old Higgins is giving you." "I have a job," Wyatt said. "Jobs come and go." Carter's voice lost its friendly tone. It became soft and dangerous. "Especially here. This ranch is dying, son. When it goes under, you'll have nothing. And that horse." He glanced toward Midnight's stall. "A valuable animal like that. In a bankruptcy sale, well, who knows what could happen to him. He could end up anywhere, with anyone." Wyatt's hand stopped brushing. He looked at Carter. "My offer is for the job," Carter said, "but my advice is for you. Pack your things, take your horse, if you can call him that, and leave. There's nothing for you here but trouble." "Midnight isn't mine to take," Wyatt said, his voice tight. "And I'm not leaving." Jed Carter looked at him for a long time. The gray eyes were empty. "That's a shame," he said quietly. He put the truck in gear. "A real shame." That night, Wyatt woke up to a sound. It was not the normal night sounds of the barn. It was the sharp metallic scrape of a latch being lifted. He sat up on his cot. The barn was dark. The sound came again. From the far end. From Midnight's stall. Wyatt was on his feet in a second, not making a sound. He crept out of his room and down the hay-strewn aisle. A shadowy figure was hunched at Midnight's stall door, working on the lock. Midnight was inside, snorting and stamping, his eyes wide with alarm. "Hey!" Wyatt shouted. The figure jerked upright, a black shape against the slightly less dark doorway. It turned and ran, crashing out the barn door into the night. Wyatt ran to the stall. Midnight was pacing, agitated. It's okay, I'm here," Wyatt said, his heart hammering. He checked the latch. It was half pried open. Someone had tried to let Midnight out, or take him. He did not go back to sleep. He sat on the floor outside Midnight's stall until the first light of morning. When he heard Cal come in, he stood up, his body stiff. "Cal." Cal took one look at his face and hurried over. "What's wrong?" Wyatt told him about Carter's visit and the man in the night. Cal's face grew hard. He went to look at the scratched latch. "Come on," Cal said. "We're telling Higgins. Right now." They found the old man having coffee at his kitchen table. He listened in silence as Wyatt told the story again, his pale eyes fixed on the boy's face. When Wyatt finished, Higgins put his cup down slowly. He looked out the window toward the Diamond Sea land. "He wants to scare you off," Higgins said finally. "He thinks you're weak." "I'm not leaving," Wyatt said again. Higgins looked at him. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. It wasn't approval, but it wasn't anger either. It was something new. "I know you're not," Higgins said. He stood up. "From now on, you sleep with a rifle in your room, and that horse doesn't leave your sight. You understand?" Wyatt nodded. "Good." Higgins walked to the door. "Carter thinks he can sneak around in the dark, but this is my land, and you're under my roof." He didn't say it like a kindness. He said it like a fact. But to Wyatt, in that moment, it felt like both. The old payphone was attached to the wall outside the ranch cookhouse. Every Sunday evening, Wyatt would stand there with a handful of coins listening to the line ring. This time, she answered on the second ring. "Wyatt?" Hearing her voice made the tight knot in his chest loosen just a little. "Hey, Beth. How are you feeling?" "I'm okay," she said. He could hear the slight wheeze behind her words. She was not okay. "Tell me about the ranch. Tell me about Midnight." He leaned against the wall. He told her about the fence repairs. He told her about the sunrise rides. He did not tell her about Jed Carter or the man in the night. He told her about finding the spring. "You found water? All by yourself?" "Me and Midnight," he said, a small smile in his voice. "It's hidden in the rocks. Cal says it's a big secret for now." "He sounds smart," Beth said. He heard the scratch of a pencil on paper. "I'm drawing it. I'm drawing you and him finding it. It's a secret picture." "I'd like to see it," Wyatt said. His voice caught. How's everything else?" There was a quiet on the line. The lady from the clinic called again. "About the bill. I told her you were sending money soon." The knot in his chest tightened again. He had sent almost everything, but it was not enough. It was never enough. "I will. Next week for sure. I have a little saved." "Don't worry, Wyatt," she said, and her voice was so brave it almost broke him. "You're doing great. You have a friend there. A real one. That's what matters." They talked for a few more minutes until his coins ran out. The line went dead. Wyatt stood there holding the receiver for a moment before hanging it up. When he turned around, he was surprised to see Cal and a few of the other ranch hands standing nearby. They had been waiting for him to finish. Cal stepped forward. He held a faded blue envelope. We took up a collection," Cal said, his voice rough. "The boys. We heard about your sister." Wyatt stared at the envelope. He did not move. One of the other men, a tall cowboy named Ray, spoke up. "It ain't much, but it's something. For her medicine." Cal pushed the envelope gently into Wyatt's hand. It was thicker than he expected. "You're part of the crew now, son. Crew looks out for its own." Wyatt looked at the weathered faces of the men. They nodded at him. There was no pity in their eyes, just a simple, solid understanding. His throat felt too tight to speak. He managed a single word. "Thanks." "Don't mention it," Ray said, clapping him on the shoulder. "Just get her fixed up." That night, in his room in the barn, Wyatt counted the money. It was $75, mostly in 5s and 1s. It was a fortune. He added it to the small pile of his own savings. For the first time, the total looked like it could make a real difference. He could pay the clinic and still get the new inhaler. A soft nicker came from the stall. Wyatt got up and went to Midnight. The horse rested his head over the stall door. "They helped, Midnight," Wyatt whispered, stroking the horse's forehead. "They actually helped." Midnight nudged his hand. The next day, Wyatt worked with a new energy. He was not just working for a paycheck anymore. He was working for the men who had shared their own paychecks. He was working for the ranch that was starting to feel like a home he needed to protect. During a break, Cal sat down on a fence rail next to him. They looked out at the dry, crackling grass. The air was hot and still. "You send that money off?" Cal asked. "This morning," Wyatt said. "She'll get it tomorrow." "Good." Cal was quiet for a moment. "That spring you found. It's the only hope we've got. But this heat," he shook his head. "One spark, Wyatt. That's all it would take. With this wind, a fire would go across this land faster than Midnight can run." Wyatt followed Cal's gaze across the endless, thirsty fields. The grass was not green. It was the color of straw and rust. It looked like it was waiting for a match. "We just need rain," Wyatt said. "We do," Cal agreed. He stood up, his knees cracking. "But we can't wait for it. We need to be ready for the other thing. Come on. I'll show you where the fire breaks are, where the tools are kept, just in case." Wyatt followed him, the feeling of hope from the money now mixed with a new, cold dread. He looked at the sky. It was a hard, cloudless blue. The wind never stopped. It blew for 2 more days, hot and dry, whipping the dead grass into a constant, whispering rustle. The whole ranch felt like it was holding its breath. It was just past 3 in the afternoon when Ray shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "Fire! South Ridge! Fire!" Wyatt was cleaning a water trough. He dropped the brush and ran to where the men were gathering. A thick black column of smoke rose in the distance, growing fast. The wind was pushing it straight toward them. Old Man Higgins burst out of the house. He took one look and started barking orders. "Cal, get the trucks hooked to the water tanks. Ray, Luis, start the backfire along the creek bed. Move!" But the wind was too strong. The fire moved faster than men could run. It jumped the small creek as if it weren't there. The crackling roar grew louder, the air filled with smoke and flying embers. "The barn!" Cal yelled, pointing. A shower of glowing embers had landed on the dry shingle roof of the main horse barn. Small flames began to lick at the edges. The horses inside screamed. It was a sound of pure terror. Higgins's face went pale. "Get them out! Get every horse out!" Men ran toward the barn, but as they opened the big doors, a wall of heat and smoke pushed them back. The horses inside were stampeding in their stalls, wild with fear. No one could get near. Wyatt stood frozen for a second, his eyes stinging from the smoke. He thought of the horses trapped and screaming. He thought of Midnight. He turned and ran, not away from the barn, but toward the smaller side door near Midnight's stall. He pushed through the smoke inside. The air was hot and thick. Horses kicked and thrashed. He stumbled down the aisle to the last stall. Midnight was there. His head was high, his ears pinned back, but his eyes were on Wyatt, not on the fire. He was scared, but he was not panicking. Wyatt threw open the stall door. He did not have a halter. He did not have a rope. He put his hands on either side of the horse's sweating face. "Listen to me," Wyatt coughed. "We have to get them out. They'll follow you. Do you understand? They need you to lead." Midnight snorted, shaking his head, but he let Wyatt grip his mane and swing onto his bare back. "Open the back door," Wyatt yelled toward the main aisle, but he couldn't see anyone. He guided Midnight with his knees toward the big rear door of the barn. It was a small door just for hay. It was latched shut. "Kick it," Wyatt urged. Midnight understood. He reared up once and slammed his powerful front hooves into the wooden door. The latch splintered. The door flew open, letting in a gust of smoky but clearer air. Wyatt turned Midnight around to face the terrified horses. He let out a sharp yell. "Ho! Come on! This way!" He urged Midnight forward, not toward the back door, but down the main smoky aisle. The big black stallion moved, not running, but walking with a loud, commanding presence. He neighed, a strong, clear call that cut through the noise. The other horses saw him. The old mare, Daisy, was first. She stopped trying to kick her stall door and focused on the black horse walking calmly through the smoke. As Midnight passed, Wyatt leaned and slid open her stall latch. Daisy fell in behind them. One by one, as Midnight passed, Wyatt opened stalls, and one by one the horses joined the line. A bay gelding, a paint pony, the mules. They formed a ragged, frightened line behind the black stallion. Wyatt led them to the shattered back door. "Now run," he shouted, and he pressed his heels into Midnight's sides. Midnight leapt through the door into the blinding light, the line of horses charging after him. Wyatt steered them away from the fire, away from the buildings, across the open pasture toward the only safe place he knew, the river. He looked back once. The barn roof was fully engulfed, flames climbing into the sky. But the aisle was empty. Every horse was out, running behind him in a thundering herd. They did not stop until they hit the cool water of the river. The horses splashed in, drinking and trembling. Wyatt slid off Midnight's back into the water, his legs weak. He put his arms around the horse's wet neck, coughing. Midnight lowered his head, breathing hard, and nuzzled Wyatt's hair. On the bluff above, Old Man Higgins watched. He watched the boy and the black horse emerge from the smoke like a ghost, leading every single animal to safety. He saw the way the horse trusted the boy. He saw the way the boy led them all. He stood very still as the men around him cheered. The fire still raged, but the heart of his ranch, the horses, was safe in the river below, because of a boy he had tried to chase away, and a horse he had called a devil. The river water was cold, but Wyatt didn't feel it. He stood with the horses, his hand on Midnight's neck, watching the men on the ridge fight the last of the fire. The main barn was a black, smoking shell. He saw Old Man Higgins walking down the slope toward the river. The old man moved slowly, his hat in his hand. The other ranch hands made a path for him. No one spoke. Higgins stopped at the water's edge. He looked at the horses, all safe. He looked at the tall black stallion, standing calmly in the water beside the boy. Finally, his pale eyes settled on Wyatt. Wyatt waited for the anger, for the blame, for something hard. Higgins's voice, when it came, was rough but quiet. "Is that all of them?" "Yes, sir," Wyatt said. "Everyone." Higgins nodded. He looked at the ground for a long time. When he looked up, his face was different. The usual hard lines were still there, but they seemed softer, tired. "I saw you," he said. "I saw you go in there. I saw him follow you." He nodded at Midnight. "He did the work," Wyatt said. "They just needed someone to show them the way out." "They needed a leader," Higgins said. He took a step into the water, not seeming to care about his boots. He stopped in front of Midnight. The horse watched him but didn't shy away. Higgins reached out a hand slowly. He let it hover near the horse's neck. Then he placed it where Wyatt's hand had been. Midnight stood still. He let the old man touch him. Higgins's breath hitched. He pulled his hand back as if burned. He looked from the horse to the boy. "He never let me touch him, not once." Wyatt didn't know what to say. "My son, David," Higgins said, the words seeming to come from a deep, unused place. "He loved horses. He had a way with them, too." He looked out at the smoking ranch. "I was too hard on him. I thought being hard was the same as being strong. I told him this land didn't need a soft heart. He left. He said I was a heartless monument. He was right." The confession hung in the smoky air. Cal, who had walked down to the river, heard it. He stood a respectful distance away. "You're not heartless," Wyatt said quietly. "You care about this land." "I cared about the land more than the people on it," Higgins said, his voice thick. "I was wrong. A man's legacy ain't dirt and fences. It's this." He gestured to the horses, to the men on the ridge, to Wyatt and Midnight. "It's what you build and who you save." He turned fully to Wyatt. "You saved my legacy today, boy. You and this horse. After I gave you nothing but grief." "You gave me a job," Wyatt said. "You gave me a place when I needed one." Higgins shook his head, as if Wyatt's words were a kindness he didn't deserve. He looked at the ruined barn. "We'll rebuild it, first thing tomorrow." He put his hat back on. The familiar sternness returned to his face, but it was different now. It was focused, not angry. Cal. Yes, boss. Get these animals settled in the old broodmare barn. Check everyone for burns. Then get every man on the place. We're digging a fire break from here to the west fence. I won't have this happen again. Yes, sir, Cal said, a hint of a smile on his face. Higgins started to walk away, then he stopped. He didn't turn around, but his voice carried back to Wyatt. You did good, son. Real good. Wyatt stood in the water, watching him go. The words echoed in his ears. It wasn't said like a father. Not yet. But it was said like a man seeing family where he hadn't seen it before. Midnight nudged him, bringing him back. Wyatt patted his neck. He's trying, he whispered to the horse. He's really trying. That night, after the exhausted ranch had gone quiet, a light burned in the window of the main house. Old man Higgins sat at his desk. He unlocked a drawer and took out a faded photograph. A woman with a kind smile. A young boy with bright eyes sitting on a pony. He looked at it for a long time. Then he looked out the window toward the barn, where a boy who was not his son slept near a horse that was once a devil. He put the photo away. For the first time in 20 years, the thought of the future didn't feel like an ending. It felt like something he could still build. Old man Higgins stood on the porch of the main house the next morning. He called every hand on the ranch to gather in the yard. The men stood in a half circle, their faces tired from fighting the fire but curious. Wyatt stood near Cal, with Midnight tied to a post nearby, calm and watchful. Higgins cleared his throat. His hands were clasped behind his back. He looked at each man, and finally, his gaze rested on Wyatt. A while back, Higgins began, his voice carrying in the quiet morning. I made a promise. I said if you tamed that horse, this ranch would be yours. He nodded toward Midnight. It was a poor joke, a mean one. I said it to make a boy run. He didn't run. He paused, his jaw working. That boy did more than tame a horse. He found water where we thought there was none. He stood his ground when a bad man tried to scare him off. And yesterday, Higgins's voice grew thicker. Yesterday, he saved the heart of this place. He saved what I was too proud and too blind to see was my real legacy. Not the dirt, the life on it. Wyatt felt his face grow warm. He stared at the ground. A man's word should be good, Higgins said, stronger now. So I'm keeping my promise, but not in the way I said. He looked directly at Wyatt. Wyatt Miller, I am not giving you this ranch. I am asking you to share it with me. I want you to be my partner, a real one. This will be your home for as long as you want it. You will have a say. You will have a stake. And you will have the wages of a foreman starting today. A murmur of approval ran through the men. Cal smiled and put a hand on Wyatt's shoulder. Wyatt was stunned. I don't know what to say, sir. Say yes, Higgins said, almost smiling. There's more. That sister of yours, Beth. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a checkbook. You will call the best doctors in Billings today. You will make an appointment. All of it, every cent comes from the ranch. It's not a gift. It's what family does. Tears pricked Wyatt's eyes. He blinked them away. Thank you, he whispered. It was all he could manage. Now, Higgins said, turning to the other men. About that water, the spring Wyatt found. We start work today to pipe it down to the main pastures. That water will save our herd. It will save this ranch. And Jed Carter... Higgins's eyes hardened. The sheriff paid him a visit last night. About the fire. They found gasoline cans on his property. He won't be bothering us again. A cheer went up from the men. The air, which had felt so heavy for so long, felt light. Later, Wyatt stood by the fence, looking out at the land that was now partly his. Higgins walked up beside him. You earned this, Wyatt, the old man said quietly. I just wanted a job, Wyatt said. For my sister. I know, Higgins said. Sometimes the best things start from a simple need. He looked out at the horizon. I'd like to meet her, your sister, when she's well enough. She'd like that, Wyatt said. She draws pictures of Midnight. Higgins nodded. He reached out and gave Wyatt's shoulder a firm, awkward pat. Then he turned and walked back to the house, standing a little straighter than before. Wyatt pulled out his phone. He called Beth. When she answered, her voice was stronger, filled with the news that the clinic had received full payment. Beth, he said, his own voice full of a joy he had almost forgotten. How would you like to live on a ranch? He could hear her gasp of happiness on the other end of the line. As he told her everything, Midnight nudged his arm, asking for attention. Wyatt reached up and stroked the horse's neck, looking at the green shoots of grass already pushing through the blackened earth near the river. The ranch was saved. His sister would be well. He had a home. It was not a fairy tale ending. There was still a burned barn to rebuild and fences to mend. But for the first time in a very long time, for both the lonely boy and the hardened old man, the future was not something to fear. It was something they would build together with kindness as their strongest tool.